Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast with NBA shooting coach Dave Love and your host, Matt Robertson, exploring the cutting edge of evidence-based shooting development in basketball today, from shooting form to skill acquisition to ShotMetrics. This is the Coach Dave Love Podcast.
Welcome to the Coach Dave Love Podcast. I am your host, Matt Robertson, and with me, as always, NBA shooting coach Dave Love. Dave, tell me what you got going on right now.
Matthew, I have new research out, and I'm really excited that I get to say sentences like that. So I have a new research paper that I just got the email yesterday saying that it is published and available for public consumption. And so we're going to do a little bit of a podcast talking about that research.
This is so exciting because we've said the words ShotMetrics for 6 months, and we're still not going to dive into the full concept, but this is just a little beak wetter for the regular listeners out there.
Yeah, we're going to go into ultimately what has become one of the ShotMetrics, and so maybe we spend like a couple of minutes talking about like overall, what do we mean when we talk about ShotMetrics? Like what is that? How do you feel about that idea?
Dave, tell me about ShotMetrics. I don't know anything.
Okay, so ShotMetrics is the road that I've gone down over the last, I guess it started about 4 years ago. Where I decided I want to start to quantify how we shoot the basketball. And much like golf has their metrics around club face angle and club face speed and launch angle and all these different things, and baseball has like I don't want
spin rate, pitch tunneling.
Yeah, all these different things. I was trying to go with it. There was one about like difference between hips and shoulder rotation, and I couldn't think of what they called that one, which sent my brain into a spiral. But like I want to be involved in creating the basketball shooting versions of those ideas, and it started out of just being frustrated with the stupid Twitter arguments that we would all get, or that I would get into, around should we be doing this or should we be doing that? And I started to feel like we're at a point in 2020, back when I was having this conversation with myself, that we should be able to answer some of these, like other sports have answered and are far further down the road of understanding the skills within their sports. Why are we not further along? Why is the only metric that we have in basketball the entry angle of the basketball provided by NOAA or the respect system? And so I did my initial research paper, which we'll circle back to in another episode, about release quality. But this latest research paper that was just published a couple days ago is about release curvature. And so, sorry, I jumped ahead a little bit. ShotMetrics is the analytics of the shooting motion, as opposed to analytics around shooting, where like it's broader strokes saying that threes are worth or more valuable than long twos. That is an analytics idea, but this is inter-skill. I always get inter and intra skill.
Intra-skill.
I think it's intra-skill. I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. So this would be an intra-skill analytics, where we're talking about the analytics of the different parts of the shooting motion. Long-winded answer. I gotta get concise.
No, listen, that's part of what this is for. Is there's a podcast by a comedian called Mike Birbiglia, who you love, and it's called Working It Out. And this is your version of kind of working it out, right? Because you've talked about it a little bit, but not a lot. Like it's been living up here for so long. And you talk about advanced analytics, and the dynamic sports, basketball, football, hockey, are the ones that are so challenging to quantify all the things just because there's so many moving pieces. So I remember when you pitched this idea to me like 2 years ago at Summer League, maybe, or 3 years ago at Summer League, and you were like, it's Moneyball for shooting. And us like, oh, it broke my brain when you start talking for like 3 minutes, and it just broke my brain. So I'm so fired up that we finally get to talk about some of this stuff, because it is, not to pump gas or pump tires or whatever, but it is truly game changing in how we talk about shooting the basketball. It's crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk about, let's dive into what release curvature actually is, and then circle back to like the genesis of the idea, because I think the genesis of the idea is a great summation of why quantifying the shooting motion is important. So remind me to come back to that. But release curvature is a measurement of the path that the basketball is taking. So I want you throughout this conversation to imagine that you're standing on the free throw line extended to the shooting hand side of the shooter, and you're watching the path of the ball as they lift the ball from triple threat position around their waist out away from their body. As it gets to probably around chest height, it's furthest away from the body, and will start to continue to lift, but start to move back towards the forehead, and then change direction again and move up and forward from the forehead. And it ultimately, if we look at a right-handed shooter from this angle, it ends up making sort of an S curve shape. And so we'll be referring to the S curve a lot, and that's essentially that starting at the position around triple threat and ending at the release of the ball to the from the hand. We're quantifying that curvature.
So from a simplicity's sake, we're saying that from the lift, there generally is, on the way up, one change of direction, almost three distinct changes of direction throughout the shooting motion when you're staring from the right or from the shooting hand side of the shooter.
Yeah, that even the people with the smooth ball path, like the Steph Currys of the world, still have those three pieces where the ball starts out and away because we've got a shoulder joint, and then the ball moves back towards, and then finally moves out and away again. And so I set out at the beginning of the idea to say, I believe that the smoother the path that the ball takes, the better the shooter will be. That was the conventional wisdom, the idea that I was sharing at the time, and that a lot of other people were as well and still are. So I wanted to prove that was in fact true, or learn what might be off the mark about it. And so the first struggle, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this, was just figuring out like how to quantify that. There are certain things that we've measured where it's very easy to quantify. Like if you want to quantify launch angle, or release angle, well, then you just find the angle between the path of the ball between 2 points in time, when the ball has just left the hand, and then find the difference in the angle compared to the floor. And that's a very, very simple calculation.
Sure. I'll take your word for it.
Well, just like mark the ball at point one, and then 2 frames of video later, mark the ball again, draw a straight line between those 2 points, and compare that to the angle of the floor, and you've got the launch angle. That math is very, very simple. Go ahead.
From a point of clarification, just to back it up just a dash, when you say you thought it would be a smooth ball path, you're talking about as straight a line as possible from triple threat 2 set point.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring
Yeah.
to?
Exactly. That like a narrow S. If you took the S and you compressed it to be as tall and narrow as you could with a very limited change of direction, that would be what I'm referring to.
Okay, so that's what you set out to prove. That was the right way to shoot, or that was the correct ball path the ball should be taking from triple threat to set point and out of the hand.
That's what we thought. Yeah. And then started to get the initial research back, and my research partner, Dr. Nathan Slagers, who will eventually be a guest on the podcast, came back and he said, "This isn't in fact true. We're like everything that we're seeing is this is not that the best shooters." And we had at that point had some guys that were otherworldly shooters, like the Brady Heslips of the world, that stood there and made 95 out of 100 NBA threes, and 43% 3-point shooter everywhere he played, and the leading 3-point shooter in NCAA history, and Steve Kerr. Well, like, we've tracked these kinds of guys, and those two in particular had the biggest change of direction. And that the guy with the smoothest ball path, I'm not going to name his name just because I don't want to feel like I'm bus chucking him, but that player was one of the weaker shooters that we measured, and that tended to be true across the board. That at worst, this idea that a smoother ball path makes you a better shooter ended up being zero-sum gain at worst. Like, there was no correlation between how positive. I'm in the middle of a similar study now with different data, like in-game NBA data, and everything that we're seeing supports the study of release curvature.
So can you, I have 7 questions. How big is your data set in the study? I haven't been able to read it, obviously, because it just came out 2 days ago, but like, how big was the data set?
I believe we have 30 professional basketball players, so it's not a huge amount, but let's not forget what we're comparing against. We're comparing it against opinions. And so the evidence is tangible, as opposed to, like, they're in doing this. What I discovered, there was a player that I desperately wanted to measure, because I thought he is going to have the biggest change of direction. He's going to have the most abrupt change of direction that we've measured by far at the set point. Like, nobody will have a bigger change of direction than him, just based on what I had seen from his mechanics. And then we actually measured it and found out, oh, it's much smoother. He's kind of middle of the pack. And so all these things, because everything that happens within the shot is happening so quickly, and your reference points are all moving. I thought this player had, as I say, a gigantic change of direction, but it turns out the ball was moving fairly smoothly. It's just his body was also moving, and the link between the moving basketball and the moving body made it look like there was a bigger change of direction than there was. And then we find out later on, as I mentioned, that the amount of curvature or the smoothness of the path isn't the common trait between great shooters. So that further threw a wrench into the mix.
So the current data set you're working with now is in-game NBA stuff. So you've got hundreds of players, as many shots as you can handle. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Dave, let's talk about the study. How far do you want to dive into what you found here?
Well, hopefully I've covered enough in saying that the smooth ball path is not the end all be all that we think it is. And so what is the important link? And what we found is that how straight the ball path is from the set point to the release is the important part. And unfortunately, that's really hard to quantify with the eye. That everybody appears to have a pretty straight ball path, but now we're able with this research to say, oh, okay, the data is now showing this ball path is curving. What habits contribute to a curving ball path? What set points or what sequencing of joints contribute to having a curving ball path? Because you can't really measure it with your eye, but you can start to see like, oh, okay, when a player does that, that tends to lead to a curving ball path. And so the set point to release is the important part that we should be talking about, but everybody keeps referring to the entire motion from the triple threat to release. And remind me to come back to the trade-offs in that.
Why don't we take a real quick break? I want to spend a little more time on curving ball path, because that phrasing took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around, but it is fairly simple kind of when you explain it. So let's take a quick break, Coach Dave. We'll do an ATO and more of this.
Hey there, basketball fans. I'm NBA shooting coach Dave Love, and I've got exciting news just for you. Introducing my exclusive, free basketball shooting newsletter. It's packed with insights and techniques straight from the hardwood. Have you ever wondered how NBA players improve their shots? Or how you could get to the next level, whether you're a college player, a coach, or a budding youth player? My newsletter brings all this and more directly to your inbox. Each edition is a deep dive into the world of basketball shooting. I'll share some of the tips and ideas that I use with my NBA clients, tailored for every level of the game. But wait, there's more. Subscribers receive exclusive monthly discounts on my online products. From training videos to personalized coaching sessions, you'll get it all for a fraction of the price. And the best part of all, it's absolutely free to join. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your game and join a community of passionate players and coaches from around the globe. Signing up is easy. Just visit CoachDaveLove.com.
All right, welcome back. Coach Dave, as we always do on the show, we're coming out of a timeout with an after timeout play. For a first-time listener, an ATO is when we come out of a timeout, we put 24 up on the thought clock in my office, and Coach Dave has to give a concise look at an important thing we talked about in the last segment. Coach Dave, you're on the clock.
Okay, so what I want you to get out of the last segment is that the idea that's all over social media that we want a smooth path of the ball from triple threat to release, that is the habit that makes for a great shooter, isn't the complete answer. And where we should be focusing more our attention is making the path of the ball from the set point to release as straight as possible. That's what the evidence shows is the most important part of the shot.
Crushed it. Knocked it out of the park. We got a good look. Concise and specific. Great job, Coach. And also, like, again, as you spoke about earlier, that was also what you believed, or some version of that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess what we need to understand is that there's a lot more nuance that goes into it, as opposed to just, well, Steph Curry's a one motion shooter, and Steph Curry has a smooth ball path. He's the greatest shooter that's ever lived. Therefore, we should mimic him. There's a lot more that goes into it. I just posted a video today on YouTube about it's a video of Norman Powell from the Clippers shooting warm-up shots before a game, and he has an outrageous change of direction. Like, the ball is way out in front of him and moving back almost horizontally to his set point. And then, like, it's a significant change of direction at his set point that if you follow the logic of we want a smooth ball path, he flies in the face of that. He's a 40% career 3-point shooter, and yet is horrendous at creating a smooth path. And if we're able to measure, I can almost promise he does a pretty good job of getting a straight path out of the set point. And so we can't apply a one-size-fits-all. Everybody should be doing this. There are definitely people that should be focusing on creating a smooth ball path. But there are other people that we do not want to fix, quote unquote, fix this idea and create a smoother ball path for certain people, because you might be then fixing something that is not in fact broken.
Dave, I want to backtrack just a dash and simplify the idea for me. So can you give me the difference between the straight line and the curving ball path, or the release, like a curving ball path and release? Can you just talk about those two ideas in a sort of simple language?
Simple. I'll do my best. You tell me where I'm losing you, if I am in fact losing you.
Got it.
So let's start with two players have the basketball around their triple threat position. The people that would preach for a smooth ball path would say, connect the ball to your body, keep the ball close to your body, and lift with the ball just coming up. And there are definite advantages of that. The part that I still do like about this is that this does protect the ball from the defender. That should be our reasoning for why we want to do that, as opposed to it makes somebody more accurate, because, as I say, the evidence is showing it doesn't necessarily make it somebody more accurate. Getting the ball moving in a straight line up around chest height can create more power. And so when I talked about there are people that I do want this, that I would encourage to do this, it would be young players who their primary objective is they don't have much power in their body and they need to maximize it. So they're lifting the ball in a smooth path where the power just continues to flow. And unfortunately, they end up with a long path of more power that is harder to control. So let me put this in golf and baseball terms. They've just become a home run hitter or a long drive person. They hit the ball a long ways, but those players also tend to miss a lot of fairways or strike out a lot. And the people that keep the ball in play, both in baseball and golf, and hit for a high batting average or hit a lot of fairways, tend to have the shorter swings. So by smoothing the path, we have lengthened the shot, which provides more power, but might sacrifice accuracy to do it. By allowing for mature players who are strong enough to do it a curved path, essentially what we've done is created a reset point in the middle of the shooting motion at the set point that allows for that point on to be the shooting motion. It is a shorter shooting motion, easier to control, and makes them more accurate. Now, you just need to be quite strong to be able to do that. You need to be the strength of a mature player, not a 12-year-old kid, in order to shoot with a curved ball path, but a straight release curvature. So the release curvature is that measurement of how much is the ball curving from the set point out of their hand. That's the important part of the shot.
Awesome explanation. Makes so much sense to me. That is quite simple from an idea standpoint. Thank you for doing that. So let's talk about that from set point and on. Can you talk about what makes a curving release curvature versus a straight release curvature?
Yeah. So essentially, what players that have a significant release curvature, like the path of the ball from their set point to their release is curving, curving, and thus making them struggle with distance control. Those players tend to lift straight up out of the set point. The ball is moving up and then starts to move forward. And so if they release the ball a little bit earlier than intended, they probably have the ball going a little higher than intended. If they release the ball a little later than it intended, a little later in their shooting motion, then it's probably going a little flatter than they intended. And that's why these people tend to struggle with controlling distance, because the path is now curved and your timing has to be impeccable to get the ball going the direction that you intend. Whereas if you have a straight path, if you release it early or you release it late, the ball is always going the same direction, and it doesn't matter early or late. The ball is going in a straight line regardless.
So when I picture a curving ball path, or a curving release, sorry, I think of a motion like Kevin Garnett being like a exaggerated version of that, where it's coming over the head and it's moving, hinging on my elbow instead of being kind of from the pocket and straight up and out. Is that a fair assessment?
You're right on the money. And already down the road towards what kind of movements cause a curving ball path. The set point over top of head is a big one. It's not the only one, but it's a big one. And quite honestly, I'm still in the process of learning myself, because there are different things like synchronization of the shoulder, elbow, and wrist flexion that or extension, I guess in this case, that contribute for some people. And I would guess we're going to find if there's 4 billion people in the world that have significant release curvature, there's going to be 4 billion different ways that it was created. But your example of Kevin Garnett is one that we've got a lot of evidence to say, yeah, that would probably be a release curvature.
I find that image really helpful, because in a vacuum, talking about this, it can be difficult. And so having a picture in my head of a catapult-like motion where it's coming back over my head, that makes sense why the window you have to release that in is so much smaller. If it's early, it's high and long. If it's late, it's flat and it's flat and short. Flat and short.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's do this for the people. Let's kind of guide them through this. Imagine a basketball's in your hand, and I want you to bring that basketball up so it's behind your head. If you're watching on YouTube, like your set point has the basketball above and behind your head, and now look at where your elbow is positioned. Your elbow is probably very high, and you probably don't have much room to continue to lift the elbow. So as you start to shoot the basketball and you start to move up and forward, your elbow essentially becomes a fulcrum for the arm to pivot around. We've got the ball in the initial stage of lifting going up. And since we're pivoting around the elbow as we get towards release, I'm now moving forward with the basketball. It was going up, now it's going forward. And if I wait long enough, then my hand is actually moving down. And so I would always say to players, before I had any idea of release curvature, that having your elbow high at the set point forces a curving ball path. And I don't know why I didn't translate that into the smooth ball path argument until we had done this research. So hopefully that helps people. Is like, just imagine a set point over your head and then just trace the line that your hand would, like, look at yourself in a mirror from the side and see how the path that your hand is tracing. It's a curving arc. That's what we want to try and avoid. We would want to try and get to the hand moving in a straight line, the basketball moving in a straight line out of the set point.
Did you measure any like perfectly straight lines with no curvature whatsoever from the set point?
Perfectly, no. Because we're all human beings.
Sure.
But it like now it's, and this is what I love about doing this research, is that now it opens up a new series of questions and better questions now, where we know that it's, we know that we want as straight a line as we possibly can. Well, the path that the ball takes out of the hand is a fairly straight line. Like once it's released from your hand in those first 3 feet, that ball's moving in a fairly straight line. It's only when gravity takes hold that it really starts to curve. But gravity will be impacting those first 3 feet. So do we need a perfectly straight line, or do we need to match the curvature that is going to, like, these are the questions that we're starting to ask now. And okay, what habits contribute to and to creating a straight release or a lack of release curvature. So like I'm fired up. I believe, Matt, that down the road is 60% from 3 on relatively high volume possible when we start to really understand the skill. We've been teaching this wrong. We've been, and the habit, I want to make sure I say this, the habit that we've been teaching of smooth ball path, the ball has to change direction eventually. So if you do a great job of what everybody is preaching on Instagram, and again, I would have preached it myself 5 years ago. If you do a great job of lifting the ball in a straight line and generating a whole bunch of power, then you got to your set point, and the ball is gonna now have to change. If you don't change the direction of the ball, it's going straight up in the air. We don't want that. We want the ball going forward, up and forward. So if you do a great job of creating a perfectly straight line, no curving of your ball path, no wasted energy, as people would say, then you're forcing the curvature to happen after the set point. And now you won't control your distance as well. So, and just to really make sure I'm making this point crystal clear, don't try and do this with a 12-year-old. A 12-year-old, their primary struggle is their body doesn't have enough power. We can focus on creating a smooth ball path for them, but don't change the elite, mature 220-pound athlete who has plenty of power. Don't take Klay Thompson and say, you'd be better if you were a one-motion shooter. The evidence would suggest, no, you will not. And you're going to fix something that's broken, or you're going to try and fix something that's not broken and unintentionally break it yourself. And this is why ShotMetrics is going to be so important over the next 5 to 10 years, because we're going to actually get rid of all of the things that we've been unintentionally teaching wrong. Like the logic that we start with as coaches on why we want the smooth ball path. And again, I said it myself 5 years ago. The logic makes sense, but what's it based on? I gave an analogy about race cars. How, like, if a race car, it has to slow down around a tight corner, and we don't, and that's where the accidents happen, is what I would always say in the past. And yeah, but we're not talking about race cars. We're talking about basketballs. And so the trade-off is smooth path, more powerful, but now you got more power to control. Shorter path, more accurate, less powerful. Which one does each player need and what habits are they starting with. Don't fix something that's not broken.
Dave, let's take one more quick break. I do want to hear about the genesis of the study. We'll do a little hammer action, but those are such important ideas. I'm so excited to keep talking about this topic because there's just so much to unpack. It really hurts my brain in the best way. The nerd in me is so excited. Let's take a quick break.
Hey basketball fans, Coach Dave Love here with an exclusive offer just for you, my personalized video shot analysis. Imagine having an NBA shooting coach analyze your shooting form, just like I do for the pros. That's exactly what you'll get with my video shot analysis. Here's how it works. You send me a video of your shot and I'll break it down frame by frame. I'll pinpoint your strengths and identify the areas of improvement and give you tailored advice to take your shot to the next level. You'll receive a comprehensive analysis designed just for you. Whether you're a beginner or an aspiring pro, my feedback will help you shoot with confidence and precision. It isn't just feedback, it's a game changer. With my video shot analysis, you're not just practicing, you're evolving, and every single shot counts. Ready to transform your game? Visit CoachDaveLove.com/store to learn more and get started. That's CoachDaveLove.com/store and look for video shot analysis.
All right, welcome back. Coach Dave, we're going to put 24 up on the thought clock. And you're going to give us our ATO, something really important that we just talked about in the last segment.
I guess the important thing I want people to understand is that a smooth ball path generates more power, but it might sacrifice accuracy to do it. And a pronounced S curve might generate less power, but as long as that last portion is a straight line, it might make a player more accurate. And this is evidence-based as opposed to opinion-based.
And that's not an open three, that's a dunk. That it is evidence-based, it is not opinion-based. And literally everything that we know about shooting outside of percentages and makes and misses is opinion-based. For the last 100 years, Dave. What?
Yeah. Noah came along 25 years ago and quantified the entry angle for us. And most of us don't really understand that. Like, we're going to do a whole different thing on, hey, we don't really control the entry angle. It was just the easiest thing to measure. We do control the launch angle, and the launch angle changes based on the distance and the height of the player. So that's what we should be really understanding. But all we really quantified for the last 25 years has been the entry angle. And most of us still don't really understand or don't have access to that information. And we're just like crossing our fingers, hoping compared to what we could be doing, which golf and baseball have been doing for years.
Man. Dave, we have so much to cover here. Again, this is going to be like a 20 podcast series over the next stretch of time. But would you say, from a hammer action perspective, getting the ball moving in a straight line from the set point is the most important thing to take away from this episode? Yeah.
In conversations with Nathan, my research partner, Dr. Nathan Slagers, who's he's PhD in mechanical engineering and has published a whole bunch of stuff, including 2 studies with me on shooting a basketball. And he would talk about, I go to the gym now and all I just focus on is like getting the ball to the set point and then the straight line out of that. And I'm shocked at how it's a great visual or external cue too. Just get the ball in a straight line out of there. How you do the first part, that's up to you. Now, and we do need to be aware that defenders will play a role, and that we can't, like, if I'm critical of the video of Norman Powell that I just posted, the ball is way extended, and you could be standing 6 feet away from Norman and potentially strip it as it gets to like chest height. But that's about the only reason that I would say we don't want that idea, because this is what he naturally does. He's able to generate enough power to shoot the ball, and then he's proved that he's accurate. Do not fix that and introduce something that will generate more smoothness and more power when he doesn't need more power. And the smoothness might actually hold him back.
Dave, this is so awesome that we've started talking about this. Is there anything else you want to cover before we kind of wrap it up today?
I mean, yeah, there's a million things,
Yeah,
but I feel like this is going to be, as you say, the ongoing conversation, and it's going to challenge some people's conventional wisdom, where they're going to say like, no, but if you look at Steph Curry or this or that, and my answer would be to all those people, show me the evidence. Like, I'm not claiming that this is 100% correct. There are going to be adjustments that get made, but we've now got evidence that the from the set point to release is far more important than what happens leading up to the set point and how much the ball changes direction at the set point. And there's more things to be learned, but if you can show me evidence to the contrary, then I'm happy to listen. But I'm giving you evidence now, and I hope people will listen to that and be open-minded to it, because it's flying against everything that you'll see across social media.
If you even think about getting to the set point, so kind of going back to our roots of a podcast in talking about variability, a lot of really good players have variability in how they get to the set point. And we're not talking about in terms of the curvature, standing at a free throw line extended from the right. We're talking about if you're standing in front of them, looking left and right, mostly like Kevin Durant, coming up the left side of his body and getting to the set point, whatever. There is huge variation of the way that we get to the set point as a bunch of players, right?
Yep. You just got to be strong enough to be able to do it. And these guys are. 12-year-old boy isn't. And we're teaching everybody as though they're the 12-year-old boy without a full understanding of the differences between a grown man and a young kid. And our players, especially at the level at which I'm teaching, where literally hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake, we deserve better than just opinion-based coaching. We deserve evidence-based, and that's what I'm trying to do.
And that's the clip. Coach Dave, where can the people find you? Because we're not doing any better than that for this episode.
Well, I want people now, I'll link it in the show notes. I want you to go to CoachDaveLove.com and go to the blog section. We have a blog further explaining release curvature, and I'm going to continue to add to these blogs as we go along, because they are labor intensive to create. And as we get better graphics to explain and further learning, then I'll be updating the blogs. But go to CoachDaveLove.com, sign up for my newsletter, check out the blogs. There's a boatload of information. You're going to see some of the topics that we're going to be talking about over the next few months as well.
There's some representations of the graphs that you're using to represent the data on there as well, which I think is valuable because you can at least see from a conceptual standpoint of what that looks like, if that's something you're curious about as well. Coach Dave, a pleasure as always. I am Matt Robertson. You can find me on LinkedIn and also on X at Coach Matty Rob, which I had neglected there's a certain event happening in the US that I can't take any more of. And so I have stayed off that thing for a while. As always, thank you for sticking with us at the end. We will not talk about which side of the argument we fall onto, posterity's sake. Thanks for sticking with us at the end. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend. It all really helps. And we appreciate you. See us next week.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Coach Dave Love Podcast. To stay up to date with our future episodes, please remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to sign up for Coach Love's free shooting newsletter on CoachDaveLove.com, and be sure to follow him on social media. You can find him at Coach Dave Love.